If you know anything about me, you'll know that I love Survivor. You know that show where they're all on the island and they have to backstab each other to win $1 million? That one. Well, one day, I decided to binge watch season 33. I know, they still have 30-something seasons going. It's crazy. Which happens to be Millennials versus Generation X. And in those 14 hours of rigorous watching, I saw how the millennial generation was both viewed and portrayed to the public. And I learned something very important. I'm just another entitled millennial snowflake. A snowflake is defined as a person who is less resilient and more prone to taking offense as compared to earlier generations, which, well, it fits. But who gave us this nickname? Why, none other than our parents, Generation X. Like what I did there. So, now I'm up here before you all to rant about how my generation has been somehow robbed. Well, actually I'm not really here to do that. But I am up here to rant about a generational rivalry that has hurt the youngest generations time and time again. And I'm up here to rant about an alternative to fix this problem. Now, in order for our society to advance, we must not judge and criticize each other, but rather embrace and support the new ideas that the next generation brings to this world. Disclaimer, for the purpose of this presentation, there are only going to be 4 main generations. Some sources have upwards of 8, but for ease, we're just going to go with 4. Maturists and traditionalists are going to be synonymous throughout this presentation, and refer to those born before 1945, our so-called old souls. Then we have Generation X, and the baby boomers lumped in with them, from 1945 until 1980. Following, Generation Y, aka us Millennials, are going to be from 1980 until the present. And again, for ease, we're going to say that the next generation is going to start at about 2025. And they're going to be called Generation Z, because it comes after Y. Now, in no way am I trying to discredit any of these smaller generations, but it just wouldn't be possible for me to get through all the content of this TED Talk in my 12-minute time frame with twice as many generations. Now, the elephant in the room. It's pretty obvious to see how the millennial generation has been attacked recently. I mean, just look at social media. Business Insider reports that we are killing the napkin industry. You know, I didn't really think a napkin industry existed, but it might not for much longer thanks to us. And then my personal favorite, some castaways spelled help on an island using leaves. And our boy Adam here decided that he was going to comment and say that they must have been from an older generation, one that didn't have autocorrect to check their spelling. And he's right. Mine would have looked a little something like this. But I think I would have run out of leaves at some point. So, now this criticism that's seen by the millennial generation actually isn't new. In fact, it's been passed down from generation to generation. Simon Sinek, a presenter from TED Talk who presented one of the most watched TED Talks, How Great Leaders Inspire Action, and a very vocal voice on the topic of millennials, actually has 3 points that he views are only valid to millennials. On the contrary, his points on parenting, technology, and impatience have actually existed for longer than him. Now, first, he addresses parenting as being a main reason for the behaviors and attitudes of the millennial generation. But I always feel that that's kind of a weak argument, because our parents were Generation X, and Generation X's parents, you guessed it, traditionalists. So it kind of just doesn't really fit or work right. But he had a stronger point when he brought up technology. Hands down, technology has improved over time, and that's been a main source of criticism for younger generations. When the traditionalists and maturists were young, they had home phones or letters or had to do something absolutely terrifying. Go out and talk to people. And then Generation X came along with their cell phones and were subsequently criticized for not going out and talking to people. And now, millennials have the luxury of not being able to leave their room and still contact whoever they want, wherever they want in the world, and now are judged and criticized for not going out and talking to people. seeing a common trend. And finally, he had a point on impatience. Traditionalists and maturists didn't have the luxury of large chain supermarkets until the tail end of 1945, and then Generation X played a key role in the growth of overstocked supermarkets. But then they were criticized with their impatience when it came to shopping. Now, in an age of online shopping and Amazon willing to buy your groceries and deliver them to you by drone, we, us millennials, are criticized for our impatience. Again, seeing a common trend, the hate that's passed down from generation to generation is completely unnecessary and actually hurts the youngest generation on many fronts. If you Google millennials are, some of the first options that pop up are lazy, entitled, and the worst. This generalized stereotype surrounding this generation has actually hurt the millennials on many fronts. A study conducted by Georgetown University found that employers are less likely to hire millennials as they gave human resource employees identical resumes with the same level of qualification and same years of experience, but employers were still less likely to hire millennials due to them being, wait for it, reportedly lazier in the workplace. This denial from working has led to a 12.9% unemployment rate with the millennial generation as compared to the nation's 4.9%, according to Forbes, exemplifying the fact that a generalized stereotype can negatively impact an entire generation. So now what? This hate and criticism that's been passed down from generation to generation is useless and unnecessary, and it can be stopped. But it calls upon the next generation. It calls upon a new ideology and a fresh perspective to look at changing times. Times are changing, and it's important to realize that, and it's best to accept the new perspectives and ideas that are brought to the world. But sometimes these new perspectives and ideas conflict with previously established ones. Like, for example, the gender-neutral bathroom debate currently being held in the United States. However, a level of tolerance still needs to be there. Tolerance means that you don't necessarily agree with what someone's saying, but you allow them to live their life that way. Tolerance allows subsequent generations to change the world to how they want to view and see their lifestyle playing out. Tolerance allows everybody to fit the world to their changing ways. And guess what? That might not be your idea, but hey, that's what change is. And it comes down to stopping the small microaggressions. Like when you see a kid on their phone and you go, oh, those millennials, always on their phones. Like, stop. The comments are unnecessary. But us millennials aren't doing any better. Like when we look over at our younger sibling and go, Mom never gave me my own iPad when I was a kid. That's equivalent to the former. And it does absolutely nothing. And, well, if you're trying to be the life at a party, maybe you should look up some new punchlines. So, in conclusion, let's just take a chill pill. The hate that's passed down from generation to generation is unnecessary, unwarranted, repetitious, and just downright hurtful. It does absolutely nothing and actually negatively affects the youngest generation in both work and home life. But it can be stopped. Let's make a new definition for ourselves. One that rightfully fits who we are. Let's make a new definition for the future generations. Let's be the change that we want to see, dear future generation. Let's hope we don't judge you. Let's hope you all don't judge each other. And finally spark the flame and break the cycle. Oh, and back to that season of Survivor, spoiler alert, a millennial won. Thank you.